Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. The Full Time podcast is presented and powered by 91 Network. You are listening to Season 5, Episode 24 of Full Time. I'm your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The Full Time Podcast is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their two locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The Full Time Podcast is also sponsored by Sioux Sports. To check out Sioux Sports and all of their articles, announcements, and streaming platforms, including True House Media and True North Radio, visit siouxsports.com as well as Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. We remind our listeners that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi-weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi-weekly as well. Folks, we welcome you back to Full Time, where we get to discuss the beautiful game. G, we are here together on this wonderful Saturday morning. How are you, sir?
I am doing fine, other than the City game nearly putting me to sleep because it is just god-awful boring. Other than that, doing fantastic. How about you, Scarps?
I'm doing good, man. Got up, had a little bit of coffee, went for a training session. Now I'm here recording with you, and life can't be better than that in my books. In today's show, we will discuss the Champions League, the Europa League, Europe's Big Five, and local soccer. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on all platforms of 91 Network. And without further ado, Gaetano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. The Champions League quarterfinals have come and gone, and the teams moving on to the semifinals have been determined. We will go through each result for you here and now. First, it was Aston Villa who took on PSG in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. In the first leg, PSG got themselves out in front by a score of 3-1. And taking that lead into the second leg, they secured 2 goals, putting themselves up 5-1 on aggregate. With the game seemingly done and dusted, it was Aston Villa who responded with 3 unanswered goals, bringing the tie within a single goal at 5-4. A late onslaught of chances from Villa would be sustained by PSG as they hold on for dear life to win the tie by a score of 5-4. PSG move on to the semifinals of the Champions League. Gitano, Aston Villa nearly clawed their way back, but in the end, it just wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, this. So we'll start with Villa. I thought they were fantastic coming up against one of the best sides in Europe, um, the now champions of France, and we'll get to that shortly. But they've just been dominant all season, PSG. So for Villa to push them to the limits that they did, it was pretty impressive. Not pretty, but it was extremely impressive. But for PSG, it almost feels like every time there's kind of this big comeback in the Champions League, they're always kind of on the wrong end of it. They always end up like losing the big lead, capitulating. So it was a little more of a mature, almost coming of age performance. And I'd say that, knowing this team's a very, very young team as well, but to be able to kind of hold off that big onslaught to lock it down and get the result, I thought it was probably my favorite of the ties in terms of like both games. Just fantastic. And obviously heartbroken for Villa. Would have been fantastic to see them get into the semifinals, but I think PSG rightfully go through.
I think they rightfully go through as well, and I tip my hat to both teams, but that almost comeback from Villa was incredible, and there was that final chance that was blocked right before the final whistle. Had that gone in and tied the game, I think that would have been just complete scenes and limbs and everything else, but almost a comeback, but not quite enough. But tip of the hat to Villa, and well done to PSG for going through as well. Dortmund locked up with Barcelona in another quarterfinal clash. Barcelona were the out-and-out winners in the first leg, winning by a thumping 4-0. Into the second leg, Dortmund never surrendered as they managed to win the game 3-1, but ultimately lose the tie by a score of 5-3 on aggregate. Barcelona go through to the next round of the competition. The big difference in this tie obviously was the first leg, but kudos to Dortmund for not throwing in the towel.
Yeah, they're going to be disappointed with that first leg, though, knowing how well they played in the second leg, how close they could have gotten. Even if they only concede 3 instead of 4, like now you're looking at 1 goal. difference. If they'd gotten that 1 or 2 goals, like, so they're going to look back at that and be a little disappointed. But I think this was probably the most clear cut of the ties when we were previewing them, and I think Barcelona's quality really shone through.
Yeah, big time. And again, that first leg was super good from Barcelona, and going into the second leg, they didn't coast. We can't push it that far, but they knew that they could play in a slightly different way, and that Dortmund was going to have to throw everything at it, and that they did. But in the end, it just wasn't quite enough. Real Madrid met Arsenal in the next quarterfinal of the Champions League. Arsenal found themselves the victors in the first leg by a score of 3-0. Going into the second leg, it was business as usual, as Real Madrid would aim for an infamous comeback, but it wasn't to be. At 1-1, a late Gabriel Martinelli goal would make the game 2-1 for Arsenal, thus making an aggregate score of 5-1 in favor of the Gunners. Arsenal go through to the semifinals of the Champions League. Gitano, in the minds of many, it was unthinkable, but Arsenal get the job done. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so like we typically do when we talk Arsenal, I'm just going to keep it brief and let you do most of the talking. And not to discredit Arsenal, because I don't think they played poorly at all. I thought they played really well. But that was the worst I've seen Real Madrid play in years in the Champions League. That was dreadful. And especially like 3-0 for them at the Bernabeu was not, like, that's not a big deal for them. We've seen them do that, like, almost every year, it feels like, comebacks of that magnitude. But to just be that awful, when their Champions League hopes are on the line. I was thoroughly disappointed, but Arsenal played fantastic. Those Declan Rice free kicks were just stunning. But yeah, the floor is yours. Arsenal in the Champions League semifinals.
I appreciate that, man. It's been a minute since we said that, and yeah, it was one of those things, and we said it on our show. Like, I had to say with my chest that I believed that Arsenal was going to win, and I probably gave it a 40% Arsenal chance of winning, 60% Real Madrid chance of winning, just because of history, quality of team, injuries, these sorts of things. But Arsenal was on it from minute one of the first leg, and they didn't take their foot off the gas for 1 second. It was incredible to watch. Definitely helps having Bukayo Saka back in the fold. There's no doubt about that. But even with all the injuries, the changing of positions, these sorts of things, everybody stepped up. Declan Rice, I thought over 2 legs, and I'm not stretching this when I say it, world class. Those were 2 world class performances. But it was contribution by committee as well, because everybody played their role. And over 2 legs, Arsenal were the better side. I will admit, to your point, yeah, Real Madrid looked as bad as they've looked in longer than I can remember. But as we say in football all the time, you can only beat what's in front of you. And Arsenal go through to the semifinals, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for what's ahead. But just delighted to be in this position, because, like I said, certainly has been a minute. Inter and Bayern aimed to entertain the masses in their 2-legged affair, and they did not disappoint. After Inter took a 2-1 lead going into the second leg, it was Bayern who traded punches with the Italian giants, but could not deliver a knockout blow. A 2-2 scoreline in the second leg would mean that Inter go on to win the tie by a score of 4-3 and make their way to the semifinals of the Champions League. Gitano, your analysis here.
To keep it brief, I thought Lautaro Martinez was the best player in the entire round of quarterfinals here. The 2 legs that he had for Inter were just massive, and I feel like even that doesn't feel like I'm giving him enough credit. Just the catalyst for everything Inter did. It's crazy, because you think if he played like that in the Champions League final, in 2023, like, City might not have a treble. But I thought he was just fantastic. A really interesting tactical battle. It was not quite what I expected. The scorelines 2-1 and 2-2 don't really show it, but the games felt a lot more open and like kind of flowing than I expected. I thought it would be very kind of rigid, interlocking it down, Bayern, just pummeling the attack, and then Inter hitting on the counter. The games themselves were fantastic. It's a shame to see Bayern go out. I thought they played fantastically across both legs, and for most of the competition they had as well. But yeah, I think over the 180 minutes, Inter rightfully go through.
Yeah, and you know what? It's sometimes a shame in a tie like that, where you have a new manager, Vincent Kompany with Bayern. Usually that coach gets really slated in the media and things like that, but I actually thought Bayern were really good over the 2 legs, and that's why I don't think he did get slated particularly much in the media. It was a good tie between 2 really good teams, but it was Inter who had those subtleties that made the difference in the end and pushed them through, and rightfully so. So to review our picks, G, we did pretty well, honestly. You went 2 for 4 with Inter and Barcelona holding it down. I went 3 for 4, only missing out on the Inter game. But there was a lot that we just unpacked there, some fantastic quarterfinals. And like I said, we picked well in the Champions League. But as we're going to go into very shortly with the Europa League, absolute nightmare. But some pretty good picks here, Gitano.
Yeah, I mean, like 2 for 4, I'll take it for sure, especially considering what we're about to go through. But I think, when we look at these ties, really, other than Barcelona and Dortmund, like, and obviously we couldn't have predicted Real Madrid just, not showing up for their tie either. I thought, every other tie was pretty much a coin flip. And not just because, so in Europa League, we didn't know a lot about a lot of the teams, but this was just, there's just 6, not including Barcelona and Dortmund, like just 6 super high quality teams, 6 of the best teams in Europe. And I was thoroughly entertained by these quarterfinals, especially as a neutral, not having a horse in the race. I thought it was fantastic.
You and me both. And the thing that I love most, lots of goals to talk about, lots of goals.
Oh, so many.
Brilliant. Yeah. And again, like we always say, our work schedules often conflict with it. So we usually can only watch the second half or the extended highlights, but it made it all worth the while regardless. Some fantastic matches there. And the semifinals of the Champions League are imminent, with games beginning on April 29th and April 30th. In our next episode of Full Time, we will preview the semifinals for all of you. And moving over to the Europa League now, the quarterfinals have also wrapped up there, and we will take you down the results of each of those matches. First, it was Lazio up against Bodo Glimt to see who would book their ticket to the semifinal of the Europa League. A 2-0 first leg victory for Bodo Glimt at home would see them sit pretty going into the second leg. Lazio would pull it back level at 2-2, forcing extra time where they would get a third goal and go up 3-2. Not to be outdone, Bodo Glimt would go on to tie it back up at 3-3 and force penalties. And in penalties, the rather unthinkable would be pulled off, as it was Bodo Glimt who would upset Lazio by a score of 3-2. Gitano, honestly, I'm at a loss for words, and I watched that penalty shootout by the time I got home from work. Nobody gave Bodo Glimt a puncher's chance, including me, really. They're on to the semifinals. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and especially given the second leg was a home game for Lazio at the Stadio Olimpico. Like, even seeing them, lose the first like 2-0, I was like, okay, they're going to go back to Rome and they're going to put up 4 or 5 and like run away with it. Lazio's fans are some of the most intense in all of Europe. I figured that would really just kind of fire them up, and I figured the fans would be especially fired up given the performance in the first leg. But just all the credit in the world, and then some, to Bodo Glimt, to not just for the win itself, but to come back against Lazio in that second leg, to get that that late equalizer in extra time, and then to kind of hold their nerves through the penalty shootouts. Just incredible stuff.
Incredible. And the lad who scored also got sent off moments later too, so I think he's going to miss at least the first game of the next tie, as we're going to go into our show next week when we discuss that. But regardless, they did what they had to do to get over the line in this 2-legged affair. Unbelievable. And as an aside, I sent you that picture last night on social media. Unbelievable stadium. Incredible. I'd love to be there.
Like, I would love to be there as a fan. I'd love to be there as a player. I'd love to be there as a citizen, because it just looks so pretty.
Yeah.
That's just, that's what I love about like the Europa League and the Conference League, is that these smaller stadiums, these smaller kind of fan bases, and I don't mean that in a rude way, just not as globally mainstream clubs, get these games of such significance. Like, there's going to be a Europa League semifinal played in that stadium. Like, it's just incredible.
Incredible indeed, and well done to Bodo Glimt. And I hope that they go on to get to the final of this competition. They would absolutely deserve it. Manchester United and Lyon had all the goals and all the drama to talk about in their quarterfinal affair. After a 2-2 first leg, Manchester United found themselves up by 2 goals in the second leg, meaning that they were cruising by a score of 4-2 on aggregate. But Lyon wouldn't go away quietly. 2 goals in the space of 6 minutes brought things level to 4-4 on aggregate, forcing extra time. Despite being reduced to 10 men for a Tolisso red card, Lyon found what appeared to be a match winner in the 104th minute, going up 5-4 on aggregate. And then, just moments after that, Alexander Lacazette, former Arsenal player, by the way, dispatched a penalty to make the game 6-4 with 11 minutes to play. But from the depths of nowhere, United scored a penalty from Bruno Fernandes to pull the game within a goal. And then a second goal from Kobe Mainu, brilliant finish, by the way. And that brought things level to 6-6. And then in the 121st minute, Harry Maguire found the match winner, which completely sent Old Trafford into oblivion. Manchester United win in the most dramatic fashion on an aggregate score of 7-6 after a whirlwind of a second leg. This was the first time in European football history that 5 goals were scored in extra time. This game, this tie, specifically that second leg, absolute bonkers.
Yeah. So I want to start with Harry Maguire because obviously United, I dislike him for that, but he's been a scapegoat for them for years, and
Yeah.
I think really unfairly. The fee that they paid for him was not his. It's not his choice. The players around him being so poor and him having to basically be the whole defensive back line for the majority of his time at United. Again, not his fault. So personally, to see him get a big moment like that, I was pretty happy for him. He deserves a big moment like that. Something to kind of remember his time at United for in a positive way, because really, like before this, there wasn't much else. So it's nice to see him, on a personal level, get that kind of that moment. Definitely deserves it, personally, professionally. I can't believe how badly Leon bottled that.
Yeah.
You're 2 goals up in extra time. Why are you not just booting the ball out of the stadium every single time you have it?
Yeah.
Like, and I get it's not the prettiest way to play, and it's not the most like nice way to do it, but you kick the ball out of Old Trafford every single time you get it. Like, you don't let United have the ball. You just kill as much time. They tried to just be too pretty about it, tried to be a little too, um, I don't want to call it too safe, but they forgot how to play football for those 10, 11 minutes. So that's pretty embarrassing for them, honestly. Um, for United, again, a team of their quality, and for our listeners, I'm saying this all in quotations, quality and reputation, um, should never have been in that position in the first place, having to score 3 goals in 11 minutes in extra time. It's just chaos and insanity, and I wish any other team but United was involved with it, because then I would have loved it so much. Like,
Yeah.
literally, like, other than maybe like Liverpool and Spurs, any other teams in the world involved in that game, and I'm talking about it as one of my favorite games of all time. But because it was United, I just can't bring myself to do it. And I can't. The things I can't even say United rightfully go through. I don't think Lyon really deserved to go through either. I thought, for just how I think before United gets those 3 goals, Lyon probably deserved to go through. But for Lyon collapsing that poorly in those 11 minutes, do not deserve to go through. Probably an all-timer in Europa League history, if we're going to be totally honest. But yeah, thoroughly disappointed with the result. Obviously, the games themselves extremely entertaining, but the results extremely disappointing.
Yeah. And you know what? To your point earlier about Leon, you got to think too. Final 11 minutes, but you're down a man. You've got
Yeah.
to play as though there's 1 minute left, and like you said, boot the ball out of the stadium, clear lines every time, get organized. It's not a time to play out from the back. It's not a time to try and dribble players. I couldn't wrap my head around why they did that. If I had to guess, their excuse would have been, well, 11 minutes is a long time yet, but you're down a player, and you got a 2 goal advantage on the road in the second leg. You've got to see that one out. So disappointed from Leon. I would have loved to have seen them go through. A couple of ex-Gooners on that team, Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Alexander Lacazette that I mentioned earlier. But United find a way, and it kind of, again, as tough as it is to say, it kind of reminded me of the United of old in the Fergie days, the comebacks. That's how it felt anyways. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. United go through. They save what's left of their season, if anything, and now they find themselves in a Europa League semifinal. Just a mad game. Frankfurt went on to battle against Tottenham and see who would get into the semifinals of this competition. After an honors even first leg at 1-1, it was Tottenham who secured a 1-0 victory in the second leg and thus booked their place in the next round of the Europa League by winning on an aggregate score of 2-1. Tottenham pull it off. There's still calls from basically every Tottenham fan that they want the manager sacked. I've never seen a club in such disarray still manage to get into a European semifinal, but here we are.
Yeah, and again, really just disappointed with Frankfurt. Obviously, losing Marmoush to City in January was always going to be a blow to them, but just like it's Tottenham, man. Like their squad at full health is not great. It's currently pretty depleted in terms of injuries, which just brings them down like to one of the, I would genuinely say, one of the worst teams in English football, at least in the top flight, anyways.
Yep.
Just in terms of quality that they can put on the field. And again, this Frankfurt side has generated little to nothing. You know, Tottenham's one of their biggest weaknesses is their defense, and they just didn't test them. I felt in the slightest. I feel like me and you playing on the wings probably could have done more damage than anything Frankfurt did. Like there was just, if there was any tie that I was so confident in the Champions League or in the Europa League of like, this is exactly how it's going to play out. I expected Spurs to maybe hold on. The first leg being 1-1, I was like, okay, like that's kind of fair. But I expected the second leg for Frankfurt to really go for it. They just didn't. They generated almost nothing. I don't want to say Spurs got lucky with the penalty, but like, I don't think outside of that penalty they created really anything either. So like, just really, really disappointed with Frankfurt, and Tottenham somehow find themselves in a European semifinal.
Somehow, some way, you got two teams in the Premier League in Manchester United and Tottenham who mathematically, obviously they are going to be safe, but mathematically not yet safe from relegation, which is absolutely insane to think about. And yeah, in a semifinal, Tottenham is. But I thought in the second leg, and this is where I kind of hold my hands up and admit, I thought that defensively that they were a little bit tighter, and they did adjust their tactics a little bit more, as opposed to being so open like they always are. But really disappointed in Frankfurt. To your point, Gitano, no attacking prowess, never really stepped on the gas, never really tested Tottenham. And yeah, I expected a heck of a lot more. But regardless, Tottenham move on to a semifinal, and yeah, I can only pray to God that neither United or Tottenham get into this final, because that is going to be misery for everyone, especially both of us. And finally, it was Athletic Club who went up against Rangers, a stalemate at 0-0 in the first leg, was leading into a cool and calm performance from Athletic Club in the second leg, as they would win by a score of 2-0. Athletic Club move on to the semifinals. Again, I looked at this one and I thought, there's not a whole heck of a lot to talk about. Both teams played it really safe in the first leg. Athletic Club showed a little bit more class in the second leg, but your thoughts on this tie?
Yeah, Athletic Club, we talked about it when we previewed it. They just have a little more quality in terms of individuals. Both teams play really well as a unit. So it was always going to kind of be decided by that individual star power. And really, that's kind of what happened. Like you said, a really safe first leg. It almost felt like that was like the blueprint for like if you're like, hey, I want to like not lose a game in Europe. This is, and like both managers saying we don't want to lose. Like it was just awful to watch. Really, I was glad that Athletic Club went for it a little more in the second leg. I think even if they had kind of maybe not hit I don't even think they hit their top gear, but if they hadn't hit the gear that they hit in that game, I still think they probably would have at least gotten the one goal. So it was nice to see them kind of get two. Felt like they played with a little more urgency. Rangers really never, I don't want to say they were never in the tie, but they never felt like they were threatening too much. And yeah, there wasn't a whole hell of a lot in this tie, if we're going to be totally honest.
No, it's true. There's not a whole heck of a lot to talk about, but I give a lot of kudos to Athletic Club doing really well in the league, and also doing well in Europe, and now they find themselves in a European semifinal. So to review our picks, Gitano, absolutely horrendous on our part, worse than full-time history for sure. You did get the Athletic Club result correct. I went.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, you got that one correct. So
I thought I picked Rangers.
Yeah, man. So like we both picked Lazio. You picked Athletic Club. I picked Rangers.
Nick O'Reilly just scored for City. Very late. Let's go.
There
you go. Sorry.
No, it's all right. That'll be 3 points for you guys. But yeah, horrendous on our picks. Worse than full-time history for sure. Ridiculous.
So you went 0 for 4?
0 for 4. I picked Lazio, Rangers, Lyon, and Frankfurt. Disaster. Now,
I thought I picked Rangers. Yeah.
I'm always go against. I'm always going to go against Tottenham for sure. I'm more times than not going to go against United, even though I have picked them a few times in the past. So truly, I kind of went 0 for 2, but regardless, on paper, I do go 0 for 4. A nightmare of a performance.
Oh man! So when I messaged you the other night about it, I thought I had picked Rangers. And for some reason in my head, I was like, because I remember talking about the stadium, like the atmosphere in Ranger Stadium. I was like, I think that might give them the edge. I thought I picked Rangers, so I thought I went 0 for 4.
No,
But yeah,
I think
that is.
I think your argument was that Athletic Club had a little bit more quality, so you were just gonna have them go edge past Rangers, and right, so that's exactly what happened. So at least one of us got a game. That was a really bad round of picks after coming off some good Champions League picks. But regardless, Gitano, of how things transpired in the Europa League quarterfinals, they are now over. Semifinals are on the horizon, and the first leg of games are set to take place on May 1st, and the second leg of games on May 8th. And you can get your Europa League semifinal preview right here on Full Time in our next episode. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you are listening to the Full Time Podcast on 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza and Sioux Sports. Check out the Pizza Portal app for a quicker, easier way to get your next hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. And be sure to check out Sioux Sports at siouxsports.com and Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Let's now get into Europe's Big Five, and we are going to start in France's Ligue 1. It's official. PSG are champions of France, and they've done it with 7 games to spare, and they are still undefeated. Gitano, what a season from PSG.
Yeah, I mean, undefeated in like the middle near end of April. Obviously, not shocking that they're the first champions that we have in Europe's Big Five this season. And like we talked about when we were talking about them in the Champions League, they've just been dominant all year. Just super, super impressed with them. And again, it's this, we've talked about all year, this young team, no like single superstar kind of player, just a real team unit. I am quite worried for, obviously not like domestically, but for European football for the coming, 5, 6, 7 years. If this PSG team can kind of stick together and keep elevating their game, they're gonna be a real threat. But yeah, congratulations to them. I don't want to say they cakewalked the league, but that's probably about as close as you can get to cakewalking the league without cakewalking the league.
Yeah, pretty much. We knew this day was coming. We didn't know exactly when. We knew it'd be soon, but here we are. And now they'll be shifting their focus to Europe and trying to lock something down there. So well done to PSG for locking up the league. It had an unbelievable season with a new team, new approach, and new mentality, quite frankly. Shifting gears to the Premier League, it's Liverpool who inch ever closer to the title as they have a 13-point lead at the top. Liverpool currently has 76 points over second place Arsenal with 63 points. In third is now Newcastle as they have made a huge surge up the table, winning their last 5 matches in a row. They have 59 points. Nottingham Forest dropped down to fourth with 57 points. Manchester City occupy fifth with 55 points. I'd imagine
we're in fourth now if this result holds.
Okay. Yeah, so assuming that result holds, that'll be.
I'm knocking on wood, by the way.
Right. So they will be there. And chasing the Champions League places are Chelsea in 6th, Villa in 7th. They both have 54 points each. G, your thoughts on Liverpool as well as the battle for the top 5?
Yeah, so I mean, with Liverpool, I believe they can mathematically win the league tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Arsenal have to lose though.
Yeah, again, mathematically.
Yep.
They can do it. Whether it'll happen or not at this point is just kind of, it's a matter of when, not if. Just they've been great all year. Really did not see this coming from them. I didn't think they would be bad. I figured with the new manager losing a couple players, I just figured it'd be a little more of a transitional year, a little close. Not in terms of like how poorly City have played, but kind of in the transitional way that City has kind of been this year, where it's like not quite at the levels you expect, but still not terrible. But they've just been fantastic. And then in terms of the race for the other 5 Champions League places, I mean, pretty much everyone but Arsenal are still kind of all fighting for it. I think it would take a pretty monumental collapse. I don't even know if they can mathematically not get a Champions League place at this point. I don't feel like running the numbers in the middle of this, but everyone else like was within a handful of points of each other, 5 points between seventh and third. It's going to be tight. There's a lot of games between those clubs now in this last little stretch too, so it's going to be extremely interesting. I'm hoping that City hold on to. I don't care where we finish, whether it's anywhere from second to fifth. I'm happy with as long as we get that Champions League football. But I really do hope to see Forest and Newcastle hold on to their spots. I feel like obviously Newcastle having them in the Champions League, St. James Park just rocking is always going to be great. And then for Forest, just as a real reward, obviously they're not going to win the Premier League, but just for a reward as for what they've done this season to get that Champions League football would be fantastic for them.
Really would, but I have to admit, Gitano's starting to get a little bit worried about Forest. They've been slipping a little bit. Newcastle surging. You know how these runs can go in football, how the momentum can take you either up or down. So I'm hoping that Forest can stay in that top 5. I'd love to see it. I think in an ideal case, I mean, obviously Liverpool's going to win the league. We know this. Arsenal, I'm hoping, can finish in second. Newcastle, I'd love for them to be there. Nottingham Forest, and then Manchester City. That would be an ideal top 5 in my eyes. I don't want to see Chelsea in there, quite frankly.
I don't even know how they're even in this conversation, if we're going to be totally honest. Like they haven't been good all season, but somehow they're there.
Yeah, and they're probably going to win the Conference League too. I mean, we got to say that, which we'll talk about in a much further future episode. But if Aston Villa did sneak into the top 5, I wouldn't be disappointed either. But I think that top 5 that we were just mentioning, I really would love to see that. But we're going to keep a close eye on it. Not so much for the title, but definitely for the top 5. And looking at the bottom of the table, the first relegated team from the Premier League has been confirmed. It is official. Southampton will be dropping down to the Championship next season, as they can now no longer mathematically be out of the drop zone. I presume City just won it.
Yeah, we just scored a second. I wasn't cheering at Southampton getting relegated. I think that was Kovacic, so that should secure the 2 points for City, or the 3 points for City, 2 goals. So that.
There we go. That's, you can breathe.
Bit of relief.
Breathe a sigh of relief. I don't think that Southampton will be breathing a sigh of relief. It'll be a sigh of despair. Gee, we knew this was coming, and with 8 games left in the schedule, Southampton officially relegated, sir.
You know, it might be a sigh of relief, just the fact that it's mathematically over. You know, and again, not that we saw them making any sort of comeback to get out of the relegation zone, but yeah, just they're on pace. They've got 5 games left to get at least 2 points, or they will be mathematically, by the numbers, the worst team in Premier League history. That Derby County team had 12 points. Sorry. So yeah, just. And again, we saw this coming. They were just not ready for the Premier League. It's no disrespect to them. Their squad was not Premier League ready. We knew it. They knew it. They tried. I'll give them credit that we've seen some really bad teams just kind of not put in any effort all year. At least not with the Southampton team. Like, they tried. They put in an effort. They put in a shift. They did their best. There was just nowhere near enough quality in that squad. They'll go down. They'll be good in the Championship next season. Maybe not win it outright, but I expect they'll be at least at minimum in a playoff place. But yeah, just kind of the misery is over for them.
Yeah, the misery is over. And sometimes, and I hate to say, you do look at a team in the Premier League and they just don't look like a Premier League outfit, if that makes sense. It's like, you should be in the Championship, you should be in the lower division, but regardless, they are officially relegated, and we'll just keep a very, I wouldn't say a close eye by any stretch, because we know who's going down, but when other teams do get relegated, we will update all of our listeners. In Spain, it's minor, but more separation has been made. Barcelona now hold a 4-point lead over second place Real Madrid. They have 70 and 66 points respectively. Atletico Madrid have 63 points in third place. Athletic Club is fourth with 57 points. And Villarreal hold on to fifth with 51 points. Gitano, no time for slip-ups, in the title race here in Spain. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's, I mean, Barcelona are going to hopefully want to get another goal here in their game against, looks like they're playing Mallorca right now. Because, again, the 2 points they dropped there, if this result holds, could be crucial to their season and potentially a championship for them. But there's just no margin for error here. We know this Real Madrid team can go on a tear and win their last 6 or 7 games in a row. So for Barcelona, I almost want to say you have to be perfect at this point. Not mathematically, but you basically do just have to be perfect if you're Barcelona at this point. I do think Atletico Madrid are now kind of out of the race. That's only 3 points difference off Madrid, but I just don't see Barcelona dropping 6 points and Real Madrid dropping enough points to see Atletico take the title. So I really think we're back down to kind of the old school Barcelona Real Madrid title race. It's going to be tight though. Again, especially with Barcelona's current result right now, it could we could be looking at like the final day, 1 or 2 points in it. I'm super excited, a little nervous, not with a horse in either race, but just for the excitement in itself. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yes, and I guess if you're Real Madrid, the one positive you can take from getting out of the Champions League is that you put all your eggs now in this basket. So if you're Barcelona, I'd imagine you're probably looking over your shoulder a little bit because the race is certainly not over. In Italy, Serie A, it's 6 games to go, and the 2-horse race is good and well on. Inter is first with 71 points. Napoli is second with 68 points. Atalanta and Juventus round out the top 4. Juventus back into the Champions League places, but the real story is about the 2 teams at the top. Take it away, sir.
Yeah, I'm actually going to start with Atalanta. Disappointed, they've lost 3 of their last 5, and essentially, played themselves out of the title race. For how well they played all season, it's kind of a bitter end for them. But yeah, Inter and Napoli duking it out at the top of the table again. 3 points between them. It's basically like the best title race in Europe. And it's weird that for so long, Serie A was just Juve won the league. Just Juve won the league. It wasn't even they did what PSG are doing right now. And now the last handful of years, like the best title races in Europe have been all in Italy, and with mostly different winners as well. I do think, obviously, so Napoli have the advantage of no European football. I do think Inter have the advantage of, it's almost like the city's treble season where it's just like every game is a final. You have to look at it that way. And I think Inter are looking at it that way. And and again, not that Napoli, if they had any other competitions, would be like focusing like less intense, but I think just kind of having this final stretch of games where the intensity just always has to be, higher than max level is really going to help Inter here. They seem like the type of team that kind of focuses, and Inzaghi as a manager is the type of manager that can get them to kind of focus on that kind of that idea that, hey, like every game's a final, we're just looking at the next one and playing at that level. It's tight. I still would not be comfortable picking a winner right now.
Yeah.
But I am super excited to see how this plays out. Obviously, besides City matches, probably like the most games I'm going to be watching for the rest of the season are going to be in the Serie A. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, you and me both, man. And 2 top-class teams battling it out, 2 world-class managers, in my opinion, battling it out at the top 2. So it makes for interesting viewing and certainly interesting storylines. So a close eye we will keep on Italy Serie A. Out in Germany, it's the Bundesliga that won't surrender the title race to its fans quite yet. With 5 games remaining, Bayern Munich hold a 6-point lead over second-place Leverkusen. It's the final 5 games to go here. Can we expect that gap at the top to get any tighter than the 6 points that separates them?
Here's the thing. I don't see Bayern Munich winning all 6 of their games. I also don't see Bayer Leverkusen winning all 7 of their games either. So I think both sides are going to drop points. I don't think Bayern will drop enough for Leverkusen to get really any closer. They might get like a point or 2 closer. I don't expect it to be like perfect from Bayern Munich, but I would say the title race is essentially over, all but mathematically. I just, and especially with Bayern Munich being out of Europe, like you said, with Real Madrid, like just having to focus on, 6 domestic games. I feel like that's probably, it's basically the best case, worst case scenario for Bayern Munich, if you get what I mean.
No, I completely and totally understand it. And I do wonder how much noise is being made around that Leverkusen locker room, training ground, etc. Because Alonso looking like he might be the next Real Madrid manager. Carlo Ancelotti looking like he's going to be out the door at Real Madrid after that Champions League exit. So I wonder if that's going to change anything at Leverkusen. I don't know if you got an opinion on that, G.
I think. Oh, so here's the thing. I think Bayer Leverkusen they had to know the players, the management, the ownership, the fans. Everyone's gonna know that Xabi Alonso's time at Bayer Leverkusen is running out. Not for his poor management, for the exact opposite, because he's been so good. That like one of the bigger clubs, a Real Madrid, hopefully a Manchester City, we're gonna kind of come knocking at some point. Um, so I don't think it's the biggest shock in the world. I don't think it would send like shockwaves through the dressing room if he was going to leave. I think it would be maybe not expected, but not unexpected. So I don't think it would cause as big of a ripple as the media would probably try and make it out to be. Because yeah, like the reality is like he is going to go to a bigger club sooner rather than later to be a manager. Um, so if this is the end, I'm pretty sure he's telling these players, it's not about him, it's about what they do on the pitch, those 7 games. Like he seems like a very level-headed manager in that respect. Um, I don't think there's as great of a coach he is. I don't think he's guiding them to the Bundesliga title this year. But I don't expect that noise to be, or I don't expect there to be that much noise in that locker room. Just the players are smart enough to know what's going on. The management, obviously, like Xabi Alonso and his group know what's going on, and the ownership obviously is pretty in tune with that as well. So yeah, I don't think it's as big of a distraction. Um, I think last year it was almost more of a distraction, given just how fantastic, like the level they played was almost unseen in European football, almost in all of football history.
Right.
They were nearly on for an invincible treble up until that last game. Um, so yeah, I think that there would have been almost more noise then about him potentially leaving than now. Just given that it's at this point, like I said, a matter of time before he goes. So I don't think it's as big of a deal.
Yeah, I think you summarized that perfectly, better than I could for sure. But can't say that the title race is officially over in Germany, but it does inch ever closer for Bayern Munich, given that slight and small gap. And now it is time for a local soccer update. The indoor soccer season here in the city of Sault Ste. Marie for men's, women's, and youth has officially wrapped up as of this week. Gitano, between all divisions in the Sioux, everyone has been grinding through the indoor season since October, and now it is officially finished for yet another year. What are your thoughts on this indoor season that was, sir?
Again, we say it every year with indoor, but like it feels like it just started. Like I remember like walking into the WEC for the first time, like first game of the season, like seeing the boys again after the little break, like uh and then all of a sudden it's Christmas, and then all of a sudden it's March break, and now we're done and we're getting ready for outdoor. I had a blast this season. Obviously not the results the boys wanted, but I always say it. I'm not there for the results. I'm there for cardio and vibes. So I had a fantastic time.
Yeah, it was a really fun season, good competition, and all the rest of it, and certainly happy to be a part of it. And like you said, it seems like we just started, but now we're all done. And as the point that you alluded to there, we get ready for the outdoor season now. And traditionally, we kick off right after the May long weekend. So we have about 4 to 5 weeks until we find ourselves on the outdoor turf. Probably 6 to 7 weeks until we find ourselves on a grass field here in the Sioux. We've had an extremely long winter this year. But a huge credit, Gitano, to everyone involved in women's, men's, and youth soccer in the city of Sault Ste. Marie for another successful indoor season.
Yeah, I don't think we give enough credit to the people who run our leagues and organize our leagues. I used to go to the meetings when I coached my sister's women's league team, and like some of the stuff that they have to deal with. It's the stuff that you don't think about. When as someone who just pays a registration fee and shows up, like some of the stuff they have to deal with and organize and plan out. It's hectic, and they do that work very unheralded, and they deserve a lot more credit than they do.
And they get credit on this show. There's no doubt about that. We are very thankful for everyone involved in youth, women's, and men's soccer. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gallo, and you're listening to the Full-Time Podcast on 91 Network. A reminder that the Full-Time Podcast is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza and Sioux Sports. Check out the Pizza Portal app for a quicker, easier way to get your next hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. And be sure to check out Sioux Sports at siouxsports.com and Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we bring today's show to a close, we want to extend our greatest debt of thanks to all of you. Your support means the world. Gee, well done this morning, my friend.
Well done to you as well, Scarps. I mean, I got to spend my morning watching City win, talking the beautiful game with you. Beautiful day outside. Can't ask for anything better.
No, you and me both, man, apart from the city stuff, but I can't agree with you more. It's a perfect start to a Saturday on this long weekend. A reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of April 21st, 2025. In that show, we will take a look at Europe's Big Five, the Champions League, the Europa League, the FA Cup, and local and regional soccer. As always, we'll keep everyone in the loop with all the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms of 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Podbean, and Spaces at suittoday.com. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Full Time Podcast and 91 Network. Happy Easter to everyone who is celebrating. Best always.